Hello and welcome to Nikon Report, your latest roundup of all the latest Nikon news and other photographic announcements that we found interesting. It's Konstantin here, and here is
Becky.
Hi, how are you?
I'm okay.
It's the last podcast of the year.
It is.
Aren't you excited?
It's a big one.
Yes, let's cover the latest fresh news, straight from the oven.
Hot off the press.
Exactly. And then the second part of the podcast where we're going to discuss kind of the year in review.
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Well, the development news that's been published this morning is...
Wow. This morning, after 41 years, Nikon ends domestic camera production in the Sendai factory in Japan, planning to move to Thailand.
Yes, that article was written by Akihito Yonekura for Asahi Camera. So it's a report where they're saying that Nikon is actually, not closing down the factory, but shifting all production of their Nikon cameras to Thailand. Z6 and Z7 production has finished in October this year, and D6 production will shift by the end of the next year.
Right.
So the factory was working, that was opened in 1971. The first camera that they made there was called Nikon EM.
Oh my goodness, we've got one of those somewhere here.
For some reason, I always thought that Nikon EM was produced by Cosina. But that's just fake news, isn't it?
I think that's fake news. However, the camera itself was a very stripped down version. In fact, the instruction manual, if you look at it in this modern day and age, is rather sexist. It's quite an interesting read for a lady to look at how they designed instructions for people.
What you're saying is it didn't age well.
It didn't age well at all.
And that's why they discontinued this camera.
However, I will say that factory has been part of a legacy of Nikon for an awfully long time. They are repurposing the factory. Apparently, in a statement made to Asahi Camera, the general manager of the video division, Hirotaka Ikegami, says the factory will continue to be used as a startup factory for new business endeavors with an emphasis on production technology and mobility. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, that's very vague, isn't it?
It's completely vague. We'll see some kind of plans going forward.
Let's see what happens. I mean, the era is over. Unfortunately, this is just globalization in a nutshell.
There are large corporations always trying to reduce production costs, and this is just part and parcel of that, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, this year Nikon announced a huge restructuring plan to minimize expenses. And I guess this is the part of that plan.
Yes, exactly. However, we did send Nikon owner to Japan.
Yes, they went there back in 2006, I think.
Gray has spoken fondly of that trip many, many times. And
they visited the factory.
They visited the factory. They got to see the whole production line. There were, 50 people from Nikon owner?
15.
15, potato.
Yeah.
Just plus or minus 35.
The legend grows by each return of it.
There were 200 people.
So half of London went to Sendai factory in 2006 as a part of Nikon owner group.
With Gray. Who recounts that visit very, very fondly.
Gray held the big umbrella, and they all wear the same color cap so they could find each other.
Amazing.
Yes. To be honest with you, I mean, it is very sad news to me because I do like Japanese-produced goods.
I know many people who do prefer to find that their cameras and lenses have been made in Japan.
But from cooking knives and fountain pens, it's just fine Japanese manufacturing. But to be honest with you, the quality of production hasn't changed. And a lot of goods that are nowadays produced in China, Thailand, or any other countries are as good as made in Japan. So the quality control is very high.
Yes.
In terms of this, I won't worry too much, but of course, it's very sad.
Of course.
All right. Well,
moving on to slightly more interesting, not interesting. Moving on to happier news.
Happy.
Z6 II and Z7 II have both had a firmware update this week.
If you're happy, clap your hands.
The Z6 and Z7 II changes are the same on both cameras. They fixed an issue where flash photographs taken with the auto area AF selected in the photo shooting menu would sometimes not be correctly exposed. So a good fix.
And then they improved overall reliability and stability. Don't you like that stability, Becky? I love stability.
Who doesn't love a little bit of reliability and stability?
I think my Z7 is more stable than my life.
Oh, no comment. Z6 II firmware version is 1.02. Z7 II firmware version is 1.01 for those looking out for it.
Yeah, and you can download them in the links below under the video or in the podcast notes. What else would you like to see in the future updates? I think we
We have a few wish lists for
Yes, we
firmware
brainstormed a bit.
So actually being able to remove the data overlay entirely would be very helpful, particularly for nighttime shooting.
Yeah, that's while shooting, not when you're previewing the images, but
Yes.
actually while shooting. To remove the data would be quite nice.
Exactly. For those cameras that already have a top LCD readout with all of your settings, it's almost unnecessary to also have it on the back screen, I would say.
Absolutely. I personally would like to log that focusing point in the middle. Because as you said in one of your videos, I'm a single focus kind of, well, boy in my case. And yeah, without turning off the touchscreen. Because if you have the touchscreen on, sometimes you can move the focusing point by just touching the screen with your nose.
Yes.
And I personally turn off the touchscreen, but sometimes I need that touchscreen to be on.
I leave it on all the time and then just readjust my focus point pressing the OK button. But it is frustrating. It would be nice. It was one of the single most asked questions when the Z6 and Z7 first came out of how do I lock my focus point. So it would be good to be able to do that. We talked about long exposures, didn't we? The 900
second exposure. That one is available on D70. It's not available on Z cameras.
On the D780 even.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, and we don't see the reason why. It's a software fix, so it is entirely possible to do that.
Could be there. It would also be great to have more button and dial customizations, more versatility about what can be assigned to the movie record button, like function 1, function 2 buttons, things like that.
That's true. I mean, a lot of people say that, let's say, camera like the 850 has 3 function buttons, and Z-series cameras have only 2. So being able, let's say, to assign a video recording button, the one with the red dot on top, for people who don't shoot film, don't film video, that might be quite useful as well.
That don't film film.
Don't film film.
Another thing that I would like to see reworked is the virtual horizon, because it does take up an awful lot of space on that back screen. Isn't it? It's so distracting. It makes me not want to shoot with it, generally speaking. I think they could probably make it smaller.
Absolutely, and move it on the side. How about that?
Moving it on the side would be good, or as you were suggesting to me earlier, putting it the same way they do in the DSLRs.
In the viewfinder.
In the viewfinder, where they have it at the bottom and on the side.
Yeah, and it kind of goes up or goes down, depending on if you tilt it.
Yeah, I think that's better.
I think that might be an option. And the last one on my personal wish list for the update is to have a new feature introduced, which is called pixel shift shooting. We saw that implemented by camera manufacturers like Olympus, Fuji, and Sony. I would like to see it in Nikon cameras. What that does is on the cameras that have vibration reduction on, they can shift the sensor before each shot is taken. So imagine you're on a tripod.
Yes.
And you're going to take several shots with a shifted sensor, and that's effectively will produce an image which is higher resolution than the resolution of the sensor itself.
Wow.
So it could go, let's say, from 46 megapixels, you could get something like 100 megapixel image.
Because you're taking effectively more shots.
Effectively, yes. And it just combines it into one file.
That sounds really cool, actually.
Yeah. It's something that's been used a lot in commercial photography, not exactly for moving subjects or people per se, but for things like still life and architecture, where you need to get this huge resolution file.
Yeah.
And let's say you don't want a high 100 megapixel body.
No.
That's quite useful to have. So from my personal wish list, I would love Nikon to implement that in the future. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Now. Next up,
a part of Z6 and Z7 Mark II firmware updates, we also saw Z6 and Z7 firmware updates. Now, this is huge. What they did in those updates, they unlocked a Blackmagic RAW in those cameras. So what does it mean? First of all, you need to send your camera to Nikon for a RAW update, which is about £200 in UK, about $200 in the United States.
Yeah.
And they will service the camera and they will enable a RAW feature. So it's Nikon Z6 and Z7 cameras already allow RAW support for Atomos Ninja 5.
Yes, that's right.
So if you have Atomos Ninja recorder, which we have, and we tried that, you can connect it to your camera via HDMI, and it will record a very huge RAW file. So for high quality productions, let's say feature films, it's very good to have. So now Blackmagic RAW, it's basically Blackmagic version of ProRes RAW.
Right.
A lot of people say it's smaller, faster, and it's a lot actually easier to use on the computer. It's not as processor heavy.
Oh, that's good.
But it also expands the list of compatible devices. Now, you can use with it Blackmagic Video Assist 5 inches and Blackmagic Video Assist 7 inches. So it's a device which is very similar to Atomos Ninja 5.
Right.
And again, you connect it via your HDMI cable and you record it directly to them. So instead of one device now, you can use 3 devices.
I would say that the Z6 probably works out as the best video camera now for value for money, particularly with all of that additional compatibility. For videographers, it doesn't make much sense to go for anything else unless you've got the extra money to spend.
Absolutely. It's the cheapest RAW camera that you can pick up nowadays, especially if you're picking up secondhand. It's really inexpensive.
Yeah.
Its B-RAW supports DaVinci Resolve. It's also can be done in Adobe Premiere as well.
Right.
What you also need to keep in mind, if you actually already have your Z6 RAW enabled, so you send your camera to Nikon for RAW update, or you bought a Z6 Videographer's Kit, then B-RAW will be enabled automatically as soon as you update the firmware.
That's good to know. Next up is the Nikon Webcam Utility Update for Mac. So it is now compatible with the Mac OS Big Sur.
Big Sur.
Big Sur. And the Apple M1 chip, which is the new chip we
That's
talked
the fast one. Everything should be a lot faster then. And speaking of Macs, Nikon updated their article on macOS Big Sur application support. So if you go to that webpage, it will list all the applications that support the new operating systems and also which versions you need to download in order to use them.
Excellent. Next up.
PhotonsToPhotos published sensor measurements for Nikon Z6 Mark II and Z7 Mark II.
So what are these measurements? What do they show us?
Well, it's effectively what they do is they measure dynamic range on different ISOs of different models. So in this case, they measure the dynamic range of Z6 II and Z7 II and compare it with other cameras like D780 and some other cameras.
Right. So if you like looking at graphs of what different cameras look like at different dynamic ranges, then head over to the link below.
There's noise performance as well, and it's very similar to DxO Mark. So yeah, it's if you want to compare the two results, have a look at that as well.
Could be quite useful.
All right, and the next news, Nikon had an interview with Amateur Photographer magazine. He was given by Tetsuya Morimoto, who is director of Nikon Europe. And what he said is, demand is returning strongly, steady sales of the latest camera, and more DX Z-mount lenses coming, DSLRs and F-mount delays expected.
Okay, that's a lot of information in a nutshell.
All right, well, let's start from the beginning. So what they said is they covered the whole year in review, and they said that when COVID-19 happened, obviously they saw the decline in sales, and it's natural, it's understandable.
That's kind of to be expected based on what happened this year, for sure.
Absolutely. And then he said they saw an increase, and they said, although we are not totally back to normal levels, we have thankfully seen a healthy recovery, much better than what we had originally anticipated. So their demand is higher than what they expected.
That is good news.
That's the thing. And then he said we see steady sales of D780, Z6 and Z7 cameras, Mark II generations. They've been well received by the market. And he says that we should expect more DXZ lenses in the future.
Okay.
Who knows, maybe even DXZ cameras.
Yes, I am suspecting that there might be one at some point soon. We've still got that DX 18 to 140 on the roadmap that we haven't heard anything about, so maybe that will come along next year as well.
Absolutely. And he also said that, yes, there was a fire at a Japanese factory, so AKM Semiconductor, and they're expecting some delays for production of DSLR cameras and F-mount lenses. So it's not Z-series, but DSLR and F-mount lenses.
Yes, which I think we're already sort of slowly starting to see. So just be alert to the fact that stock might be a little bit shorter than usual over the next few months.
And that's it for the Nikon news. There are a couple of news that we found interesting. One is called The French Startup. That's a good start of the article. The French Startup. Curve One announced the first commercial curved CMOS sensor.
So this is news that you found interesting.
Yes, I did. First of all, because it was a French startup.
Okay. And second of all, because it had curved sensor in it.
Curved sensor,
Okay,
yes.
so as I understand it, the benefit of a curved sensor is that because the sensor is curved, there will be less need for lenses to correct.
Yes, to flatten the curvature.
To flatten the curvature in order to produce a flat image.
Exactly, and that makes the lenses smaller and lighter, and also allows them to use the less optical elements, really.
Right.
So instead of, let's say, having 9 or 12 elements in the lens, they could have 5 or 6.
Yes, okay. That could be quite interesting.
Absolutely. We've seen the curved sensors in the past, but this one is supposed to be the first mass-produced sensor. What's interesting about this as well is I think we probably will see the first use in mobile photography.
Okay.
So because it makes things smaller and lighter, who knows?
Sure.
But who knows? It may develop into something big in the future.
Interesting.
Could be a camera or a lens.
Who knows?
You never know.
Right. Well, thank you for that.
And this one is for you, Becky.
Yay!
So Ilford to release the Spry 35 II, a reusable 35mm point-and-shoot camera in January 2021.
I thought you were going to let me say that one. But
All
okay.
right. Well,
when
the
you said
ones...
this one's for you, and then...
Well, it's a present for you.
Thanks.
So I found it for you. So they announced two cameras, which were basically rebadged codecs last month. But the one they announced this time, and it's coming in January, it looks quite funky. It's one of those square-shaped toy-looking design.
It really is.
And I think it might be a nice toy camera.
It's an interesting little box camera. That's quite fascinating. So it's a 35mm point and shoot.
Mm-hmm.
And...
Its only will cost $35.
Are you joking me?
So it beats Holga on the price.
It does, and it shoots at a fixed 1/20th of a second.
Exactly. 35mm format, so it's cheaper.
And it also has a built-in flash.
Here you go.
Goodness me. So that's, when is it coming out? When can we see it?
January 2021, $35. It won't replace your Nikon FM.
For sure.
But it's a nice, fun toy camera to play with. Who knows? Maybe over Christmas next year.
Well, if it's coming out in January, then it's just in time for my birthday.
Here we go.
Nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Yeah, shall I get you one? You wish.
Why not? We'll do an unboxing and then a review.
That's right.
On
20
our YouTube
million
channel.
views on that unboxing.
Probably. So now we get to move on to our year in review segment.
Review. Okay, well, we've started a little bit with our live stream last Friday.
That's right.
So do check it out. There were graphs and stats. We won't do this today.
No, we had fancy infographics for the live stream. Today
Exactly.
you get to hear us talking.
That's right. So we obviously will show it on the fingers. You know, since you listen to the podcast, you won't see it. So that is what it is. But let's cover the best-selling cameras very quickly.
Top three?
Top three best-selling cameras in Grace Westminster.
Yeah, so D850 was number 1. Not actually a surprise to me.
Yes.
Z6 was spot number 2.
All right.
And the D3500 was spot number 3.
Yeah, I'm very close to it was Z50 as well, which was a few cameras down.
That's right, a few units just less than the D3500. And then the best-selling lenses?
500 PF.
Yeah, my favourite. And then what did we have in the slot 2?
We got 14 to 30 Z lenses, which was surprising to us, and then also 50 f1.8, which wasn't surprising. It's a very nice lens.
Surprising. But also just behind that, a few units behind that was the 24 to 70 f2.8 Z lens. So
and it's still selling well.
that was very interesting how the top bodies were both SLRs apart from the Z6 and how the top lenses were Z mount lenses. Very interesting.
And it's interesting as well because we start to see a shift towards mirrorless lenses.
Yes, for sure.
We start to see the mirrorless lenses outselling full frame lenses, and I think a lot of people are preparing for that shift.
I think so. People are starting to rationalize their equipment a little bit more and decide that you can actually get better quality by using the native Z lens if that focal length is available.
Absolutely. Now, remember that thought, because we're going to come back to that.
Okay.
But moving on, the best-selling accessory was EN EL15 battery.
We're not surprised. The B version, very specifically, but that's because we only just saw the release of the C version.
It's pretty much the most used battery in all Nikon cameras, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Vast majority take that one. So
Absolutely.
That makes sense.
Now, let's move on to products that Nikon released this year as well.
Yes.
On F-mounts, in order of release, they released two cameras, D780 and D6.
That's right.
And they also released only one lens, 120-300 f2.8 FL lens.
Oh, yes, which we've had many a debate about.
That's the thing. Only 3 products.
Yeah, 3 F-mount products.
Yeah, remember that thought from a couple of minutes ago. Okay, keep that in mind.
I'm keeping it in mind.
All right, so tell me, Becky, what did they release on Z front?
Okay, so we had 3 bodies.
Yes.
The Surprise Z5, and then the Z6 II and the Z7 II.
Okay.
Then we had 4, 5, 6 lenses and 2 teleconverters.
And 2 teleconverters.
We got the 70-200 2.8 VR at the beginning of the year, the 20 1.8 S lens, the 24 to 200, the 24 to 50, which came out with the Z5, the 50 1.2, and the 14-24 were the most recent ones, 14-24 2.8, and then our two teleconverters, the 1.4 and the 2 times.
So have you noticed something? Have you noticed a trend forming here?
I'm sensing a pattern, and I can kind of see what you're trying to say here. So Nikon have been releasing more Z lenses, and also in response, the market has been buying more Z lenses.
That's true.
I don't know what came first, chicken or the egg, but it is a valid point that the focus shift has definitely been onto Z systems. However, from our earlier little report there, it is obvious that Nikon are planning to still release some F-mount stuff next year.
So it's happening, but it will be probably a lot less
similar
than
to
it used to
be. Yeah, similar.
Absolutely. So you may not like the shift from DSLR to mirrorless. Personally, I don't like it myself, but this is happening.
Yeah.
It's just the way the cookie crumbles.
Exactly.
Have a look at other camera manufacturers. They are either already well established in the mirrorless sector or not making DSLRs full stop.
Yes, very true.
Other companies are in the process of shifting.
That's right.
Just like Nikon.
And I think Nikon have had to do quite a lot of catching up, which is why they're so aggressively releasing at the moment. They are a few years behind on the mirrorless front, but in some ways that's better for them because they learn from the mistakes of their competitors. So
have a look at the reviews as well.
Yeah, exactly.
The reviews have been very positive, not just on cameras, but also on the lenses.
Very much so.
They're very competitive with all other brands.
Yeah.
They still have gaps in the lineup, and we will talk about it a bit later. But so far, I think the lineup was pretty good.
Yeah, so far there's a huge amount of offerings out there. The most challenging part about this year, I mean, well, we know the big C word. I might have to say that.
Welcome live from Tier 4 in London.
The most challenging part of this year has definitely been the COVID situation, supply chains being affected, the fact that people have not been able to work, not as many people have been able to work in as close proximity as we're used to, and obviously then the factory fire, just to top off 2020, has been so much fun.
Well, I think to top off the 2020, we're also going to talk about this little thing called Brexit.
Yeah, let's,
So while Boris is looking for deal, Nikon is not sure how the equipment is going to come from the European hub in Netherlands to UK. So that's another challenge for Nikon to figure out. Bear with us. In about 10 days, we'll find out.
We'll find out one way or the other.
All right, the next one up is we're going to discuss the whole photographic market and DSLR market versus mirrorless. This is going to be based on SIPA numbers. We do use SIPA's website for those reports, but we also read Nikon rumors on that as well. So
excellent.
Going through the figures, we can see that in the last year, the whole photographic market is shrinking.
Yes.
So it's been shrinking year on year on year, and at the current pace, the total of interchangeable lens camera bodies shipments in 2020 will be under 5 million units. Okay,
wow.
So it was 8.46 million in 2019,
right?
10.76 in 2018, and 11.68 million in 2017. So you can you see the pattern there?
Steady regression,
steady decline.
Decline. That's the word I was looking for.
Why do you think it's happening?
I think in part because the camera market in general is changing and more people are using their phones for photography.
That's true. The whole market of point and shoot cameras has been killed completely.
Yeah, absolutely. And then secondly, obviously a lot of people have started looking at mirrorless cameras, but when it says interchangeable lens cameras, does that include mirrorless?
That includes mirrorless. We will cover the rise of the mirrorless systems, but this is including all cameras combined.
Yes. So I do feel that particularly those who are not professional photographers or semi-professionals, and with the advancement in technology for mobile phones, in camera phones, people are tending to opt for the camera that they have with them in their pocket all the time versus taking a separate body.
Absolutely.
Makes most sense.
And it's got to be tough for photographic companies.
For sure.
Not only they're competing with each other, they're also competing with increasing second-hand market.
Yes, Exactly. That's a very good point.
And that's, you mentioned about technology. Technology is so good nowadays that you don't really need to upgrade every cycle. You don't upgrade your phone every year, do you?
No.
You don't. You're not going to upgrade your camera. The cameras are so good nowadays that you can skip a generation or two.
Yeah, and you could even still take professional quality pictures with a camera that was made 10 years ago easily. So it's more down to, as you like to call them, the what is it? Quality of life improvements.
Quality of life improvements. It's an evolution more than revolution. It's another one of my things.
You're going to trademark
I'm full
these
of wisdom.
sayings.
Yes.
My goodness, we need to put them on plaques.
The
and put
T-shirts
them
are coming out.
Konstantin merchandise.
That's right. Start to cash out on this.
Yes.
Time.
All right. So give me the figures.
All right. The figures are available from January to October this year. So generally, we will see the figures November, December figures probably sometime in February, and I think we may do a podcast on that.
Sure.
I also want to do a podcast on Nikon financials as well.
Oh, fun. By yourself?
But, yes, I think I need about 3 days and a bottle of whiskey. And
the figures will all be wrong after the bottle of whiskey.
That's fine, but I'm going to be so excited doing that. So let's have a look at the shipments from January to October this year. And then I'll give you a comparison to the same period of last year. So this is year on year, not figures, but just percentage if it's up or down on the previous shipments.
Okay.
So DSLR units for this year are down 50% in shipments on previous year. Mirrorless units are down 30% year to date.
Okay.
Compact units 50%.
Also down.
And then they have different graphs for basically DX and Micro Four Thirds lenses. So the ones that are smaller than full frame, those are down 45% year to date. And the full frame lenses are down 31% year to date.
Gosh.
So that's, again, shows us the market is shrinking.
Yes.
And that's, again, maybe because of the reasons that we mentioned above.
I would think so.
Yeah. So I think the market may need to kind of spend some time and figure it out itself,
Yeah, for sure. And, the best way to do that is to survey the market and find out what is needed and wanted from photographers.
Absolutely.
Because they can't really guess it. They're going to have to actually find out from the people what they want in order to continue to sustain the camera market.
Absolutely. I agree with you. On the bright side, the mirrorless shipments value is now 235% up of DSLR shipped value.
Wow. So that is a heavy increase over DSLRs.
Absolutely. So DSLR shipments are shrinking, mirrorless shipments are increasing.
Well, I think we can, based on what we've seen on Nikon's launches this year and also just the sheer number of people going over to a mirrorless system, either to run alongside their older DSLR or to completely change over, that does make sense.
Absolutely. So remember that thought from 10 minutes ago.
Going to hang on to that.
We will hang on to that throughout the whole podcast.
Recurring theme.
It is recurring theme. And I think it's important to know what we all come back. Becky mentioned that they need to survey their market and they need to listen to the market.
I agree.
This is, I think, the one thing that we encourage all photographic companies
absolutely
to take away from this.
Because, we're so sure.
You and me, we are combined opera of photographic retail
Certainly
industry.
When it comes to Nikon.
Yes.
Right, now for our Sunday reading segment.
Sunday read. This one is huge because Christmas is long.
And therefore, lots of time to do some reading.
Absolutely. Get yourself a nice mug of coffee or tea or whiskey or...
on Christmas morning.
A nice Shiraz.
Exactly. So Shutterstock published their 2020 year review in photographs. They wrote that 2020 has been a year like no other. You're telling us. As we approach its final days and prepare to ring in the new year, let's look back at the events and individuals that have marked this unprecedented moment in time. The link is below. There are some fascinating images on there. Please do go and check it out when you get a moment.
Especially if you don't like to read. There's so many pictures.
More pictures than words.
Absolutely. Another year in pictures published by National Geographic, and that's one of the most respected magazines in the world.
For sure.
Their January 2021 issue, which is also the year in the picture of 2020 issue, is divided into 4 segments. They call it the year that tested us, the year that isolated us, the year that empowered us, and the year that hope endured.
Wow. That's a strong message.
So absolutely. One of the things, do you subscribe to any magazines, Becky?
Art magazines.
Any magazines?
Art magazines.
Yes, art magazine. Yeah.
That's it. Do you want me to tell you the titles?
Yes, please.
Artists and Illustrators is the main one that I get. And obviously also Nikon Owner comes through my door.
That's true. There's one writer I like in there. Her name is Becky.
Oh, wow.
Always read her
I'll
articles.
sign a copy for you if you like.
Thank you.
Also, amateur photographer. That always comes through to me.
Yeah, that one comes at to Grace as well, so we read it.
Absolutely. Those are the only ones that I sort of per se subscribe to and read on a frequent basis. I've always wanted to read National Geographic, but I do follow them on Instagram.
Well, I can tell you that I'm subscribed to National Geographic, to
fancy.
their digital issues. And I subscribe to British Journal of Photography, which is, I call, less photographic magazine and more art magazine.
Right.
It's quite a magazine sometimes.
Yes, it is. I've seen copies of it. It's not entirely my cup of tea, but...
Absolutely. And being a, intelligent snob, I read New Yorker every now and then. No, I don't.
So you can see the National Geographic year-in photos.
For free.
Pictures for free.
In their digital hub, in the link below. So have a look at that. I probably will buy this one in print.
Yeah, I think that would be nice to have.
There's something nice about printed issues.
Memorabilia, as long as all the pictures aren't depressing.
Absolutely. Well, I think the year that hope endured.
Yeah,
it's the one
I like that. That
to
rings
watch.
true for me. New York Times also published their year-in pictures. They called it A Year Like No Other. That link is below.
Again, a very interesting read. The Guardian published the Agency Photographer of the Year 2020 shortlist. Again, those are from photographers who work for the agencies. Again, a very interesting view. Have a look.
Lots of pictures to look at. More pictures than reading is always good if you've had too much eggnog. So that's fine. Now, how astronauts captured iconic space photos, A History of Cameras in Space by Scott Manley's YouTube channel.
So there's some Nikon in there.
One. Yeah, of course, because as we all know, Nikon went to space.
Yes.
We also have My Visits with Ansel Adams.
Yes, you know that photographer?
I do.
Okay.
By Alan Adler at Petapixel, where he writes about his experience meeting the legendary photographer.
He actually met him twice.
Did he?
Yeah, and he said, well, very nice job. Recommend.
Good.
And speaking of Ansel Adams, well, the news came out that iconic Ansel Adams image sells for nearly 1 million at Sotheby's auction.
Wow.
And a bunch of his photographs was sold for the total of 6.4 million.
Not too shabby.
Yeah, photography is not. You can fetch some money.
It is, particularly if you're Ansel Adams.
Absolutely.
Now, in terms of educational articles, we have one from DP Review.
Yes.
About what is lens breathing.
All right.
And why should you care about it.
Okay, is that the list of yoga exercises? So...
No. So great educational video. It's only 4 minutes long. A lot of people confuse lens breathing with focus hunting.
Or yoga exercises.
Or yoga exercises, apparently. While it doesn't matter that much for stills photography, it is very important for videography. So please do check that out. The link is below. And as it's only a 4-minute watch, it's definitely worth a little bit of extra education for you.
Yeah, don't you like 4 minutes short?
I do.
Educational video.
Unlike our live streams, which are an hour long.
Oh, we can talk.
You can. However, we do, if you have some time over Christmas, I've been speaking to far too many people who don't know the existence of our YouTube channel yet. Outrageous.
Not many people know that we have online shop.
This is true. So if you have a little bit of time and you've missed any of our earlier podcasts, live streams, how-to videos, we've got short ones, we've got full hour-long specials, something for everyone out there, I think. Do please check it out.
We are the Netflix on Nikon. All right, another educational video for our Lightroom users. How to optimize Lightroom Classic for the best performance.
I probably need to do that one myself.
It's a good one.
Good.
Lots of pictures, not much text.
Excellent, I like that. Now we go on to our 2020 awards section.
All right, well, Nikon got some awards this year. So let's start from the beginning.
Well done them.
The one in February, they got for fundus camera, which is called Retina Station. It received IF Design Award 2020.
Excellent.
All right, what the camera does, it allows you to take a picture of your retina. And by examining the retina photographs, they can see if there are any issues in your body. So diseases such as glaucoma, I'm not sure if I can pronounce that correctly, pigmentary degeneration of the retina, diabetic retinopathy, and age-related macular degeneration are often the cause of sight loss.
Wow. So basically, Nikon created a tool which would allow people to see into the eye and detect these so that they could then treat it early on. Early detection is always the best.
Very
treatment.
fascinating.
So well done, Nikon, for that. They also received the Red Dot Award product design for the Z50 and for the 58 f/0.95Z lens, as well as the fundus camera, which we just talked about.
Well, it's nice to receive additional awards, isn't it?
Yeah, so that's them.
Then came May, and 4 Nikon products received the TIPO World Awards in 2020. So the products like D780 was selected for the Best DSLR Expert Camera Award. Z50 was selected for the Best APS-C Camera Advanced Award. And then 120-300 FL lens was selected for Best Professional DSLR Lens. Now, 58 f/0.95 was selected for the Best Mirrorless Prime Lens.
It's won a couple of awards.
Yeah.
We have one in stock if anyone would like to buy it.
Yeah, it's almost like it's a good lens, isn't it?
It is killer. Well, it's fascinating. Well, also in May,
Yes.
the 58 f/0.95 notch lens received the Camera GP 2020 Editors Award.
Is that the lens that we mentioned several times already?
Yeah, so it's won 3 awards already up to May 2020.
All right. So the Camera GP Awards focus primarily on cameras and lenses and are sponsored by the Camera Journal Press Club Japan, which was established in 1963.
And comprised of editors from 10 print and online
In
camera
Japan.
and photography magazines.
It's pretty good, isn't it?
It's a nice award for them to receive for that lens for sure. In August, 4 Nikon products were honoured with the ISA, is that how you pronounce it? ISA Awards, Expert Imaging and Sound Association Awards. D780 was selected to receive the Full Frame Camera Award for 2020 to 2021. Z50 was the Best Buy Camera. The 120-300 again won an award. It was selected for the Best Professional Telephoto Zoom Lens. And then lastly, we had the 85 1.8S lens, which is also a Z-mount lens, and that was selected.
Oh, that's new.
That was selected for the Best Portrait Lens. And in October, Nikon received several awards for the Good Design Award 2020.
Yes, Good Design Best 100 was won by Nikon Educational Microscope. It's called Eclipse Eye, and it's microscope, which is educational.
Okay, and then the Good Design Award for the Best Full Frame Camera went to the Nikon D6, which we're glad to see won an award for sure.
Full Frame Mirrorless Camera Z5.
That's right. Standard Zoom Lens.
24-50.
Shocking. I wasn't expecting that one.
I know.
I still need to do my review on that. Then the APS-C mirrorless camera best design was the Z50.
Correct.
Standard Zoom was the 16-50. The winner of the Best Zoom Lens series was actually the entire holy trinity of f2.8Z lenses.
All 3.
All 3 of them
Okay.
won the Best Zoom Lens series award for mirrorless cameras. What else? There was another one for good design.
Intelligent Actuator Unit for Robotic Joints of Collaborative Robot C3 Emotion. Do you understand what this is?
No, but it honestly just goes to prove that Nikon make far more products than we know
Absolutely.
about.
It's basically a joint that is used in building robots.
Okay, and if you want to know more, there's a link below. We also won some awards.
We won.
We did. We won the Platinum Good Service Award for the 4th year running from Amateur Photographer. Thank you to everyone who voted for us.
Thank you.
We also won Retailer of the Year from British Photographic Industry News for the 2nd year in a row. So thank you again to anyone that voted for us for that one. If you have been pleased with any service you've gotten from Gray's Westminster and fancy voting for us in the Photography News Awards, we'll pop a link below and you can vote for us. We'd very much appreciate it. Now, let's talk about some predictions.
All right. What cameras are going to be released next year?
D850 replacement.
All right.
I'm
that was
calling
easy.
it now.
Okay, that was easy.
Calling
That was
it
easy.
now. And then we think, what do we think? A DX camera?
That's a difficult one, but let me ask you, what do you think they're going to put in D860?
You think that's what it's going to be called? Some people are calling it D880.
70.
Yeah.
90X.
They're just going to throw D900. I'm calling it now.
D900. The ultimate Nikon full frame.
I mean, the D850 to me was the perfect camera. They could create a hybrid AF system like they did with the D780.
Yeah. Bring this, but then bring the D6 AF system with all the patterns. The square ones, the line ones, and rectangle ones, and triangle ones.
Shaped ones,
all those shapes.
They could do that.
Okay.
I would also really like it if they would have an increased frame rate without having to pop the battery grip on with the bigger battery.
That's true, makes sense.
Native 9 or 10 frames per second would be lovely.
by installing a new processor, and I'm sure that the new motherboard will allow for that, for larger file transfers.
Exactly. That's my very small wish list.
Okay. Well, I would add the high resolution sensor. Why not to stick that 60 Sony sensor in it?
Okay.
Yeah, or put an 80 or 100 megapixel one. You never know.
When is it too many? When is it too many pixels?
It's never too many.
Okay.
And then add pixel shift on it. And then it will give me 400 million pixels.
And then you want IBIS on the sensor, right?
Absolutely.
In terms of the possible DX body, do you think they'll replace the D7500?
Here's the question for you. Yeah, do you think, and I don't know if it's a wild prediction or not, but I think they will discontinue 3000 and 5000 series, and we'll see the release of Z30 and the Z40 cameras.
I'd actually like to see that, because I think that people who tend to buy into the entry-level DSLR bodies would be happy with something that's smaller and lighter with the same capabilities. Most of what they want already comes about in the Z50. It's just the price point's a little bit too high. So it'd be interesting if they could do that.
The D3000 series is the most popular and the best-selling system for Nikon. So that's a budget system. So effectively, they introduced a Z30 model. And again, that would basically shift those people towards Z30.
Yes.
You also will sell a kit lens with it, which is very important.
Exactly.
So generally, when people to buy the system, they don't really upgrade. They buy a brand new system, brand new camera with a brand new lens.
Yes.
So in terms of this, I think it will be easy to shift people from D3000 series to Z30.
Yeah.
Will it happen next year? I personally think so, but it could be in 2022 as well. You never know.
We've also heard rumours of a Z8 and Z9 to fill that high-end flagship Z system.
All right, so what Z9 is going to be? Is it effectively equivalent of D6?
I think that something that competes with the D6 in terms of performance would be sensible. That's what a lot of people are looking for.
So it needs a groundbreaking autofocus performance.
It really does, and it also needs extensive battery life.
Okay.
We've already got the frames per second.
So we're talking a built-in grip, so similar shape or form of D6 effectively.
I would think so.
Okay, that sounds interesting. And Z8?
Z8, I don't know. I don't know what they would need two bodies for.
Okay.
That's what the rumours say.
Well, let me fill you in on this one.
Okay, please do.
I think Z8 is going to be a studio camera.
You think it's going to be a 60 megapixel Z system?
I think it will be hybrid of D850 and D3X.
Okay.
So we're looking at high resolution sensor. So Z7,
yes,
while it is high resolution, it's 46 megapixels.
Yeah.
The build quality, it's not up to, let's say, D850 or D6 level.
No.
So to build a camera with a better build quality, make it a little bit bigger for professionals with bigger hands. Release a battery pack for it as well. Well, probably MB11 would fit as well.
I should think so.
I think that's going to be an option. So better build quality, higher resolution sensor, bigger body. So something that professional photographers would appreciate.
Well, I suppose we'll find out whether or not our predictions are accurate or completely off the wall.
You never know.
Over the course of the next few months.
Yeah, what about lenses?
Lenses, I mean, I definitely want to see the 100 to 400 S-line lens. That needs to happen. I'm hoping that they will bring out more of the telephoto end, but I desperately want to see more than anything the 105 macro.
Yeah, we have Nikon lineup for next year, and they have 11 lenses grayed out.
Yeah, that's going to be... I don't think that they're going to bring them all out next year,
No, the rumor says it's going to be 8.
Right.
What lenses do you think they will leave out?
So I would like to see the 105 macro.
Yes.
It would be great if they brought out one of the pancakes at least.
Okay. One of the two sounds good.
Certainly the 100 to 400 and potentially the other telephotos, 200 to 600, 400 and 600. That leaves us with 2 more slots that I can't
think. Okay, we've got 18 to 140 DX lens.
Oh yeah, that's right. They said they were going to bring out some DX lenses. And then potentially maybe the 85 prime.
1.4, 1.2.
I think it's going to be 1.2. I'm taking bets.
I think so as well. Just looking at 51.2 and the size of it, I don't think Nikon afraid of designing the lens that is bigger than the camera itself.
No, exactly.
It looks huge, but I've tested over the weekend. It is beautiful.
Yes, and if you
1.2 is lovely.
If you look at the picture of it on the roadmap, it looks really wide.
Yeah, and it looks almost the size of 14 to 24 2.8 lens.
Yeah, so I think that's a possibility. What's your wildest prediction for the next year?
Well, let's all put a tinfoil hat on, and I'll tell you.
Okay.
I think we will see an FTZ Mark II with support of AFD lenses and potentially focusing of manual focus lenses. Now, hear me out.
Okay.
Hear me out. Okay, it could be far-fetched, but a third-party company just released a Leica mount to Z mount, Leica lens to Z mount, that allows focusing of these lenses.
That's
now,
very true.
Pretty much all Leica lenses are manual focus.
That's right.
So if they can release an adapter that allows autofocusing of these lenses on Z camera, I don't see why can't they release AFD type adapter.
It's a very good point, actually.
Now, if it won't come from Nikon, I'm pretty sure it will come from a third party.
Yeah. So actually, that's not as wild a prediction as I thought it would be.
But I think it may happen. We also will see the DJI gimbals.
Yes.
They released this motor that you can basically wrap around the focusing ring of the lens, and it will focus it. So you can put your 3514 AIS on that gimbal with that little motor, and it will autofocus it. So it is possible nowadays to design such features.
Yeah, the technology is there.
Absolutely. And it's kind of, it's a new development that we've seen this year.
Yes.
I think it is possible. So you never know, fingers crossed.
Well, Nikon, if you're listening, there's some ideas for you if anyone was short of them. I would love them to produce something like an F7.
Unfortunately, Becky had to leave this podcast because she had enough. But the question I asked her, what's your wildest prediction? She answered F7. It's obviously happening. Vinyl is here. Everyone buys manual focus lenses and autofocus lenses. Everyone buys film. Why not? We want to ask you what you personally look forward from Nikon for next year release. Tell us in the comments below. I personally think that Z8 probably will be my camera. I'm a studio guy. I like portraiture. I like big sensor and big cameras. So why not? Let's talk about the trends that we will see next year. I think it may cover photography in general, but I think one thing that we will start to see next year, and we already start to see it this year, is manufacturers using the hardware and designing the software to work around it. First of all, we've seen quite a few firmware releases by Nikon. They've recently released a firmware for Z7 cameras, Mark II, but also the firmware releases for Mark I version. That's 2.5 years after release. That just shows that Nikon loves their users and improves their cameras as much as they can. That's something that we didn't see 2 years ago. Software is still keen, so we probably will start to see more work around this space. The hardware is already good, but think about iPhone, where the specifications of the phone are generally not as good as Android phones, but because software is designed this way that you're using, let's say, RAM and other features of the phone, that actually those programs run better on iPhone compared to Android devices. Think about Tesla, that design electric cameras, electric cars. While everyone can design electric car and put a long battery in it, it's the autopilot software that will make all the difference. Shifting to subscription to the software might become a future trend. So think about this. Camera manufacturers designing the software around the hardware that's available from the shelf. All cameras are quite competitive now, but AI photography, it's where we'll see the most differences. Let's talk about face and eye recognition. That technology has been in phones for quite some time now. So back in 2012, 2013, we finally started to see it in the last 3 years. What we want to see more is more shapes recognized. Not just animals, plants, and objects, but could be trains, vehicles, etc., etc. Features like pixel shift that's been introduced in other cameras. Why not introduce in this? Maybe we will start to see features that are introduced and is a paid upgrade, like RAW paid upgrade. Again, it's not something that I personally would like and I would like to pay for, but features a la carte could be a next option, subscription-based options. Again, it's not something that I personally like, but that's the way the cookie crumbles. That's the way a lot of tech companies working nowadays. So all about computational photographers and AI machine learning. I think we'll start to see more of it in cameras. That's the trend that I personally think that we will see next year. It will start to develop and probably we'll see it more in the future. I personally think that Nikon need to invest in their software development. Thank you so much. Thank you for your support.
We will be bringing you more quality content in 2021, so stick with us. Make sure you subscribe, hit the bell icon if you're on YouTube for notifications, or follow us on all those places that we put podcasts.
Stress on quality.
Quality. We'll see you for another Nikon report very, very soon.
Next year.
Merry Christmas.
And Happy New Year.